Hey guys, welcome to YouTube channel where hedging peso matters. So for today's topic, we'll be discussing about REIT. Worth it bang mag-invest sa REIT? So we all know for a fact that this corporation has become publicly listed through initial public offering, of course, which means that there are certain documents that they have submitted with the PSE or the Philippine Stock Exchange. So among others, ito yung company information. So as you can see, this corporation operates as a real estate company way back 2006. But then, pagdating ng 2019, it operates as a real estate investment trust, which will be the focus of our discussion. So, hindi natin pag-uusapan per se this company, but rather will focus on how the REIT functions. Since the law that governs this REIT provides for regulatory and tax incentives framework for real estate companies in order to raise cash by publicly listing their income-generating assets such as malls or offices and buildings, and for people to take part sa pag-invest or sa pagbili na real property by pooling funds together, which will later on be used to purchase real property in order for us to generate income. And this is another way on how we can make our money grow, not only by trading stocks in the stock market, but also through REIT. Without further ado, let us discuss ano ba ang REIT. So gaya ng nabanggit natin kanina, REIT stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. And this is the law that governs the REIT, RA 9856. So, gusto ng legislative body or itong Congress is for more Filipinos to purchase real property even though it is in the form of assets or securities or through the use of course, capital market. In short, maaari tayong makabili ng isang real property although hindi tayo directly ang magiging may-ari. So, ang purpose ng REIT is to pool funds, as I have mentioned. The funds that they have gathered will be used to purchase real property, and that real property must be generating income. Paano mag-generate na income? Like, ipapalease out nila yung property, and yung renta na babayaran ng tenant will also be our income based on a proportionate share. Now, worth it bang mag-invest sa REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust? In order for us to properly address this query, we have to consider the tax incentives and benefits under this law. By analogy, let us imagine we are inside the restaurant and we are planning to order food. The worth of food that we want to buy amounts to 500 pesos. But instead of paying 500 pesos because we have been given coupons or gift checks, ginamit natin yung coupons and gift checks para maka-avail tayo ng mas marami sa worth ng 500. The same thing goes in tax incentives. So, maraming tax incentives ang natatanggap ng isang REIT na corporation, mas maraming income on our part. So, we the investors want to get the most out of the hard-earned money through investments. So, as you can see, these are the tax incentives and benefits that an REIT corporation may avail of. So, we have the 30% corporate income tax, but we can avail this after the compulsory 90% dividends has been distributed. So, mandatory for a corporation na ma-distribute itong 90% na dividends bago ka matax. Alright. Exemption also for MCIT or the minimum corporate income tax of 2%. So, kapag lugi ka for the first 3 years of your business, instead na 30% corporate income tax ang babayaran mo, in lieu thereof, 2% na MCIT. But in this case, exempted ang isang REIT corporation. Let us skip 3 and 4. So for number 5, exemption from capital gains tax, income tax, documentary stamp tax, and creditable withholding tax on the transfer of real property to REIT. So kapag meron tayong real property and then we transferred it or we converted it to a real estate investment trust, then it may be exempt from those taxes. Now, how will a company be entitled to these tax incentives? So as you may recall, the purpose of this REIT is to induce more Filipinos to purchase real property in a form of stocks. And para ma-encourage ang maraming tao, of course, the government has to give incentives, and these incentives must be beneficial to both the company and the investor. Number 1, retain or hold assets bought for 5 years from date of transfer to REIT. So as we have mentioned a while ago, the transfer of real property to REIT will be exempt from those taxes. However, there is a condition that these properties converted to REIT must be held for at least 5 years from date of transfer. Second, maintain its listed status in the PSE. So it's like saying na hindi ka dapat ma-delist from the PSE. Now, pay 90% distributable income to its shareholders. So ito yung inaabangan natin, dividend distribution of 90%. So the REIT or an REIT corporation must distribute 90% of its income as dividends to its shareholders because it is the ultimate purpose of this law na ma-encourage ang mga Pilipino to purchase real property in the form of equity, shares, or stocks. So far as we can see, it is worth investing or our money is worth investing in REIT. Now, meron ba possibility na hindi mag-declare ng 90% dividends ang isang REIT company? Yes, there is a possibility but I don't think these REIT companies will take that risk of not declaring 90% dividends. Why? Ang basis natin is itong nasa Section 17 ng batas na to. Any tax incentives availed by the REIT shall immediately be refunded to the government plus penalties and surcharges. So it means that if a corporation will not comply with the conditions set forth under this law, then mare-revoke yung eligibility to avail of the tax incentives. Kasi isa sa mga requirement para makapag-avail ang isang corporation ng tax incentives under this act, isa sa mga kailangan makomply is mag-distribute siya ng 90% dividends to its shareholders. And failure to do so will cause the delisting of the REIT. Ngayon, kapag na-delist ang isang REIT, then lahat ng incentives na natanggap niya earlier will be refunded back to the government plus penalties and surcharges. And isa kasi sa mga condition is ma-maintain ng isang REIT company na maging publicly listed. So kung hindi magde-declare ng dividends, madidelist ang isang corporation. Pag na-delist ng corporation, there will be a failure to maintain a status of being publicly listed. So maraming safeguards na mapapansin tayo dito sa batas na to. Una, kailangan mag-declare ka ng 90% dividends. Failure to do so, babayaran mo lahat ng mga incentives na yan. Kailangan publicly listed status is maintained in order to continue enjoying the incentives given by the government to the REIT corporation. Now, what are the structural requirements for REIT company to be entitled to tax incentives? So una, kailangan may minimum paid up capital siya na 300 million with not less than 1,000 shareholders each having 50 shares. So this is a requirement that has to be complied with by registering first with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Once na register na tayo sa Securities and Exchange Commission, kailangan natin ng REIT plan. So itong REIT plan will provide for the information that will be the source of the dividends. As you may recall, the REIT had submitted its prospectus. Doon sa prospectus, nandun lahat for transparency purposes, all the things or all the information that we need. Now, it must be duly listed with the PSE and at least 75% of the assets must be income-generating real estate assets. Earlier, we have mentioned that a corporation that functions as a real estate investment trust will pool funds together from investors and the funds will be used to purchase property. That property will be leased out or will be rented out to different establishments like office spaces, storage warehouse, malls, and other similar businesses where the income that will be derived from those leasing out of property will be distributed to the shareholders in the form of dividends. And take note, hindi lang basta dividends because the law provides that company that functions as an REIT must annually distribute at least 90% of the net income derived from not less than 70% of its total assets. So, at least 90% of the net income must be distributable to its shareholders. Sana nakatulong tong discussion natin to enlighten your investment views. And if you find this video interesting, give it a thumbs up. And again, don't forget to like and comment. Of course, subscribe. And again, thank you.